Welcome to session 14. This is the second last module in this program. Using in-company cases in leadership development programs. Last week, we did the session 13, which was on plugging the gaps and creating IP. And having done that bit, your case is ready to be deployed. This program is on enhancing executive ability and decision-making skills with in-company case studies. This is being brought to you by METL Global Perspectives, www.metl.in. In-company cases, leadership development. Organizations carry out leadership development programs. Often, these are a combination of personal leadership, that is leading self, team leadership, leading others, and business leadership, leading business. In-company cases can be written on various aspects, and leadership programs thus designed for this purpose. These in-company cases are incorporated in this leadership programs at various levels, and they then make the program so much more relevant and applicable for all the participants. Here are a few instances for the cases that can be written for leading self, leading others, and leading business. For instance, when we come to leading self, we can talk of a 360 feedback, which happens in many of the cases. After that 360-degree feedback, case studies on managing work and life, managing priorities, giving up excess allocation, changing paradigms, overcoming adversity. Such case studies with senior people or individuals who have done it in the organization in their setting and are in leadership roles can be created, and these can then be considered for the intervention. When it comes to leading others, case studies on developing others, influencing and persuading, conceptualizing a large project that sustains everyone and everything around. It is not about just buying land and making something. It is about giving everyone a role so that the individuals also prosper over time. Leading business can be about designing an innovative product, dominating a marketplace, going global, business turnaround, replicating a business model, profiting with digitization, beating a competition in a particular category. So it is for every such instance that you want to cover, consider a strategy program or a leadership program or a general management program. And around these, have these cases for every instance that you want to teach. So when you connect these frameworks, these program designs with in-company cases, you have a power which is never unparalleled. In nature, the individuals learn a lot, and there is so much of, and all of this is so highly applicable, and that is where the difference comes. Otherwise, there are so many programs which happen in leadership development. I myself have done so many of them for various clients. But the ones where in-company case studies are used, they are the most fruitful and nice and good programs to have. Using these in-company cases, 7 steps. Once these case studies are written, they are to be integrated into the program and concepts driven through them. The way to use the case study in a program is important for maximizing benefit. There are 7 steps to it. Step 1, distribute the cases. Step 2, discuss within the group. Step 3, discuss across groups. Step 4, apply management framework. Step 5, invite protagonist. Step 6, brainstorm with the protagonist. And step 7, apply learning to own workplace. Now we will explore each of these steps and then see how an in-company case study is so very different and so much more applicable and so much more relevant than any normal case study on a particular construct. As I've always said, regular case studies that are written for MBA students and other such reasons for teaching a concept or a construct, they can always be given. But applying those learning, because that is from some other environment and some other business and some other culture altogether, that becomes very difficult. In company cases, the learning happens and the application of the learning happens at the same particular instance in an organization. As the program goes on, the learning keeps happening, it adds on to one to other, and you get very good results at the end of it. Step 1. Distribute the cases. Distribute the case studies to the participants much before, maybe 7 to 10 days before, and ask them to go through it and resolve the dilemma that has been stated in the case by the protagonist. In case the participants have not read it, tell them to read parts of it and seek out the response to the case questions. This helps in collaboration for knowledge creation. So, in case there is a 10-page case study that you have written and there are 5 participants to a round table in the session, so it's what you do is to give 2 pages each and let them read those and give the common questions that all of them have to answer. And therefore, when they skim through the material of the 2 pages that they have with them, they have to find out what is relevant and what connects with the answers to the situation that the dilemma that the protagonist faced. This also gives rise to collaboration because they have to share the relevant information and then the solution is created. It's rather co-created with all of them together. So if they have read the case and come, very good. They can just share their understanding and discuss and proceed to the next step. If they haven't read it and they've just landed up there or haven't given it a thorough read, you go to the step 1, which is distribute the cases here. Step 2, discuss within group. In groups, they are to discuss the cases and suggest the approach to resolve the dilemma. The group needs to discuss differing approaches of the members and arrive at a common approach. This can be put on a flip chart or made as a presentation. Within the group, this helps in influencing and the persuasion skills. There are groups which get into a heated argument and discussion, and there are groups which tend to give into groupthink. As an instructor, or as and when the discussion is happening and you are moving through the class or as a facilitator, when you're moving through the setup there, just try to see that groupthink or too much of unnecessary or angry discussions don't happen. What is relevant is to stay focused on the persuasion and influencing skills and try to respond to those questions, the case questions, in a timely manner. Discuss across groups. This step 3 is what I find to be really, really interesting, and a skilled faculty can really bring in a lot of leeway and interactive sessions during this. The faculty at this stage is to engage the class in a discussion and ask groups with differing views to state their rationale. Remember, as a faculty, when you're going through and understanding what others are doing, what all the groups are doing, you know who's coming from what perspective. So you pick up 2 teams who have different perspective to the whole thing, and you make them discuss and say that who is correct and who do you think, which approach is the right one to take. This gives rise to interesting discussion and interesting debate. This also helps in developing interaction behaviors, the ability to control emotions and convince the right way with rationale. So this step can become very interactive and very interesting if done well, and it brings a lot of energy in the classroom as such. Step 4. Apply management framework. At this step, the faculty to provide the suggested management framework and ask the group to rework the case analysis based on the recommended framework. Compare the output with the thought processes on the earlier flip chart and note the difference. This helps in refining the thought processes and put a structure to it. So, say there is a competitive analysis being done and which product has got what superiority. So, say there are 3 products that an organization has and they want to decide which one they want to put the maximum focus on. Now, they can discuss, debate, whatever they think. The participants think as the relevant reasons to do the discussion, to do the selection. But what you can do at this juncture is perhaps expose them to the VRIO framework and a little bit of demand and supply. And when you have done these 2, then they take that framework and apply that into the situation. Always remember that every case has a management framework embedded into it. When they apply these two, uh, they might get a different answer, and most likelihood they would get different perspectives all as well. Now, just imagine, and this is done keeping the case study of an in company situation. Just imagine the power that it adds to the classroom when they see that in their in-house in-company case study how such a situation was dealt with earlier. Now here is a management framework, then they apply it, and then they bring out some excellent answers and the ways to go ahead. At this juncture, in the step 5, we invite the protagonist. The protagonist can come over video conference if they are unable to travel, else they can travel down. Now, faculty to invite the protagonist who would then critique the analysis. All these teams would have put their flip charts or their presentations. So the protagonist goes through them and then would critique the analysis and state what actually happened and why. Again, this is an in-company case, so people would know what had happened. But the why it happened, though it is covered in the case, there might still be some deeper understanding required. In case there are confidential elements that can't be put in the body of the case, that is very strong IP or the competitive advantage of the company, the faculty at this time can have a panel discussion kind of a thing with the protagonist and bring out those aspects. The protagonist then can share this with the participants and the learners. This helps in understanding the real dilemma and the constraints within which leaders have to deliver the results and outcomes. So understand that while the leader is trying to capture a marketplace, the competitor is also going to respond. What happens if the competitor does not respond aggressively? What happens if the competitor just decides to step back? It might not be a segment that they want to operate anymore. There are various such forces which are working in the market. So it has to be understood in the complete context. So when you invite the protagonists for this discussion, they are really adding value as to what happened and why did they go the way they did. Step 6 is brainstorm with the protagonist. This bit is very crucial, and this is where the leadership development happens and the new behaviors can get formed. The case learners to ask questions to the protagonist and brainstorm a different approach to the solution if feasible. This refines the thought process and deepens the understanding of the dilemmas. There was a situation in which I was there, and here the protagonist has done a lot of good work, and they had done some execution strategy related things which took a lot of manpower, a lot of effort, and a lot of time. They needed some permissions from the company, and the protagonist got it, and he did a lot of work to make that happen. During the discussion, a participant or a group, they put forth a very different approach to handle that particular situation. And when the protagonist was countered by this team saying that why didn't you approach it in this way, because these are the technical characteristics of this and this is what has to be achieved, and therefore this is, it was a very structured discussion. And the protagonist at the end of the discussion, he said that maybe what you guys are saying is correct. I could have done it this way. There was a time constraint. I went ahead in a particular manner. Maybe I didn't think through all options, and therefore what you are saying, I think might have worked as well. And that would have cost the company lesser hassles, lesser time, lesser manpower, and would have been far more productive. So this happens also in case of in-company discussions because the protagonist is available. In case you're talking of a case study related to a company like Walt Disney, you wouldn't have the protagonist available with you. There's no way you can get them to discuss the real things, what happened in Disney. They would not be aware. So it's not, therefore, it's good to read those cases, good to know what Disney considered as important, but when it comes to applying to your organization, learning what will work in your organization, in company cases are the best ones to go with. And the step 7 is apply learning to own workplace. learners to apply the perspectives thus shared and discussed into their own areas of work or business improvement projects and implement the same. Applicability is immediate as it is entirely contextual. No need for strenuous follow through is there. So, this is why the programs are done. Ultimately, all these leadership programs, managerial programs, development programs, and training programs that they happen in learning and development sessions, they are there to help the learner gain insights and apply them. Those are the two crucial aspects only. Nothing can make it happen better than in company places, in company case studies. And in company case studies, in company situations, and discussing that with protagonists and being able to share the management framework and apply that, it's a power that is so immense for the learning and development setup. So I would strongly recommend that you create your in-company cases and use them. If you really want to use some external cases, use that. That will increase knowledge, but that will not help in the application of that knowledge at workplace. In company cases, immediate learning. As the discussion is entirely contextual to the organization, it being an in-company case, the learning is immediate and entirely applicable to the situation. This also goes a long way to develop the culture in the organization. When it comes to decision making, it is normally a combination of strategy, finance, leadership. While these three topics are specialized subjects by themselves, the business situation requires a combination of these three. A case study can capture that if written in three part A, part B, part C kinds. The first part focusing on the strategic challenge, the next one focusing on the financial implication of the various options, and the third is the required leadership to make it happen. So just imagine that there is a need for expansion. The discussion is about should we create a third party vendor and therefore source the complete output of their factory that would help reduce the capex, but at the same time there is some bit of quality and vulnerability of the organization's processes there. Their IP can go out, but at the same time this might be faster because so should they go for this or should they invest their own capital? So here is a business situation. This kind of situation requires to come to decision making on this. It's a combination of strategy, finance, and leadership. The control that a company can exert on a third party will always be lesser than the kind of control that they can have on if the setup is their own. So now here comes an instance of what is the culture of the organization. Do they always take a long-term view of a situation, or do they try to quickly wrap up or grab a market space available to them? So these are the aspects which certainly get built into the case analysis, and the protagonist then helps them bring this through. So understand that immediate learning and application of the learning is immediate when you come to in-company cases. Analyzing in-company cases. With such in-company cases that are relevant in the economic reality, the leadership programs create enormous impact, and it is time and effort well spent. Some companies send group of employees to business schools. In such situations, the company and the faculty from leading business schools can use the in-company case studies for the design for programs and for designing and delivering the programs. The best way is to get the expertise of their faculty and their understanding coupled with the in-company case studies. So when you are going out to different B schools who are doing a custom design program for your organization, you can always demand that the cases that you have written, they be used in this particular scenarios. So that helps a lot. And so while you get the knowledge of the faculty, you're also getting the benefits of the in-company cases being there. Questions? In the case that you're writing, where will you use in the leadership development program? To develop all the leadership competencies needed, how many case studies need to be written? Message me your queries and I will try to revert as soon as I can. Reach me at saugata@metl.in. Next week, we will have the last session of this case writing program, That's the session 15, and we will discuss there on the skill set of a case writer. Happy case writing, and try to create the complete battery of cases that you require at this juncture.